Testing, testing. How do I check which mic? Let me know. Someone in chat, let me know if you can hear me. New World, can you hear me on this microphone? Sounds great. All right, cool. So, happy Friday. It's been a long couple weeks. I'll be honest with you. I've been drained. I have been working very hard on a lot of stuff outside of work. Getting some content together for a platform that's leasing some of my courses, or something that I haven't done before. Working on a podcast, working on a couple additions to the courses I have. The 100. Look at what my dog did to me, by the way, from April. It's like, go jump on daddy, and scratch my neck. Yeah. Not only that, but the YouTube channel is a thing as well. And a lot of other stuff going on in the background. I'm not quite yet ready to talk about. So, for some of you guys who don't know, I'm a big anime guy. So I've watched hundreds. No. Ain't no baby daddy. It ain't nothing like that. A lot of business stuff going on in the background. A lot of stuff like that. Just taking care of stuff. Have I been doing work in C# lately? No, it's been more MongoDB, Mongoose. But yeah. So interesting thing is, for those of you, as I mentioned, I watch a lot of anime, and one of the animes, they have this thing in Naruto. Naruto's an anime. It's about ninjas, and the whole series is about a bunch of topics. But one major one is, what is your ninja way? And what that basically means, is what. This is what I take it is. What is it that makes you you? What is it that makes you be the person you want to be? And that's really what I take from that. It could mean something slightly different, but what I want you to understand is, whatever it is you're trying to accomplish, whether you're a developer or you're aspiring developer, whether you are, you want to go and you want to get 6-pack abs, and whether you want to buy an apartment complex, whether you want to be an author, that you need to have something in your mind at all times about what it is that you want to accomplish, and what it is that you want to be, and who you want to be. I get asked this question a lot, and I don't have a very good answer. In all honesty, is, where do you see yourself in 5 years? And part of the reason I don't have an answer is because every day I'm moving that goalpost. Every single day I did this, because I have to take care of the present to plan for the future. But all the present builds to the future, and in my brain, right? And so that goalpost keeps on moving and moving and moving. But I'm able to keep moving that goalpost because I'm hitting milestones along the way. And so I want you to think about, what is your dev way? What is it that you want to accomplish, and how are you going to get there? And really always have that picture and image in your head. Yeah. Try Boku no Hero Academia. Yeah, I love me some My Hero. I watch all that stuff, man. Master of the Mash. But yeah, so I was just thinking about that the other day, because I think negative role models, and so there's a couple things that help with visualization, as well. I've seen Death Note. I'm not kidding, guys. I've watched hundreds of animes. um, so I've watched Death Note a couple times, and My Hero Academia a couple times. But You want to see how adorable my cats are? Look at this shit. Look at these two over there, just so adorable. They're like, what do you want? Leave us alone, mere humans. um, but make a second channel for anime reviews. I don't know that I really. So here's the thing: is I don't like when I watch all these animes. I don't go and like I don't read manga. Um, and I I don't. So here's a funny thing that happens when you work in. So this is something that you have to be careful about as a content creator and as someone who has multiple side projects is that you don't start hating what you love to do. Because I love to code. I love the process. I love to get better. I love to grow. I love my skill set, and I love picking up new skills. So one thing I have to watch out for is that I don't accidentally, just from burning myself out on personal projects, from working on things, learn to hate what it is that I love to do. And so I'm always hesitant to try and professionalize hobbies. Like gaming's a good instance. So a lot of you may not know, but I used to have a Twitch channel, which I got like 50, 60 people watching me at a time. And this was when I was like really broke years ago. And this is how I paid my bills for a little bit. And I did back when Hearthstone was in the alpha and beta, I was doing some Hearthstone streams and this and that. And I was doing it so often, like 8 hours a day, every day, that eventually I hated the game. I hated gaming. I didn't play games for a year or two. Um, but anime is the same thing. Anime has always been a major part of my life and something I've always enjoyed. And so I'm always hesitant to say, like, could I go and do anime reviews? Maybe. But it's the best use of my time. I don't know. And more than that, I mean, if I go from watching it for entertainment and enjoying myself, and the few moments that I don't sort of sit there and just zone out while I watch some of this stuff, um, and now it's more of a task that I have to do because there's a financial incentive. It sort of kills it a little bit, right? I don't know. So it's just something to think about there. But how are you guys doing, man? This ain't about me. This is our weekly AMA to help you. Um, Definitely automate everything. um, but yeah, so it's been a long week. A lot of meetings, a lot of it's been busy, man. That's the truth of the matter. I've just been busy for the last I don't know 4 years, and so it's pretty fun. Yeah, it does. That's a good point, Julia. I was trying to figure out how to actually say it, but it defeats the point when fun becomes obligation, right? That's part of the thing that I've done very seldom. Seldomly have I worked on side projects with other individuals because the fun of a side project is being able to have complete control over it and work on it on your time. And when you have other people involved, all of a sudden it changes the dynamic. Um, you know, and so you got to be careful of that. It's just one of those things. But yeah, you got too much vitamin A into your hair. That doesn't sound right. Oh man, hey, baby. Thank you. Sorry. I got me some foods. Dude, I just saw this article on LinkedIn where a former Amazon interviewer is charging $800 for a low end and $5,000 for a high end, or more detailed, I should say, interview prep for Amazon. How crazy is that? All right, so yeah, I've been working a lot lately, but um, I don't know. I've been enjoying it, man. That's the thing is I'm tired, but I don't. If you were to ask me if I didn't want to code on this API after this last year, I'd probably tell you no. Will I? I don't think so. I kind of do need a break, but in the sense of like I'm physically tired. Like I was up late last night talking with Ricky. We were doing some graphic design stuff, and Thursday, Friday, those days roll around. Um, Tires me out a little bit. But is your workplace intense or is it super laid back? Do you ever get stressed out? One thing that happens in life with companies is you you'll find out very quickly that your stress level is a lot under your control. Um, you may work at bad places, but why do you stay at a bad place? So my stress levels are relatively under control. I would say they're rather laid back. I work remote many days a week, usually 3 days a week or so, sometimes 4. Um, I don't have someone checking over my shoulder. Um, it's easy to talk to people if I have issues. I let them know. Um, but it's also how I how I make sure I don't get stressed out. So a couple things that I do that don't to make sure. One, I don't put chat or email on my phone. So if something blows up, you got to call me. And you're only calling me for major stuff. I started doing that about 2 years ago. I haven't got a call since. I haven't got oh, we need this solved this minute, even for something stupid. So all of a sudden when people have to actually hear you and talk to you on the other side of the phone, you stop getting called for stupid things. I should say stupid things. I should say stuff that can wait till the morning. Ferruccio, how's it going, man? But yeah, I would say one thing that really helped me with controlling my stress levels is understanding what it meant to be a professional, and that comes from a couple different things. Um, how to interact with the business. So instead of giving hard deadlines, you give estimates and you give confidence levels. And um, some of that comes from experience. Some of that comes from reading the book, The Clean Coder, which is a link in the description below. I highly recommend you read. My favorite Sonic game. Um, Honestly, I only really ever enjoyed Sonic 1 and 2, like the originals on Sega. How do you deal with bad clients? Well, I don't really work with clients per se. Like most people, when they say clients, I work for a business. How often do you go on vacation? I haven't gone on vacation in about, God, maybe 2 years, year and a half. Um, I'm due for a vacation. Um, but last last time we left town, we went to my mom's house and my dad's house on the other side of the country. So I think we'll do something similar for Christmas, and we'll do a vacation. But April's doing a boot camp, and when she's done graduating, I'm gonna take us on a trip to Europe or somewhere nice for a little bit. But that's 9 months away. Caitlin finished her third week at first dev job. Thanks for all the help. Good for you. Good for you, Caitlin. Is it? I imagine it was a little overwhelming, but hopefully you are doing what you need to do to get up to speed and continue to grow and continue to learn. How long do you think you'll stay in Tampa? I don't know. Eventually, I want to move somewhere colder. Eventually, I want to move somewhere a little closer to home. Right now, I'm sort of in this. We're in the grind phase for at least another year, so I would imagine I would imagine that it's going to be one of those items where um, what happens is April's going to go through this boot camp. She's going to get a job somewhere, and that's where we're going to move. You don't feel like the front end is a challenge anymore? Then start picking up the back end. Look into service workers, client-side caching, progressive web apps, pick up TypeScript, GraphQL. Research solid principles, clean code. Dive into mobile first design, atomic design. All that sort of stuff. Yeah. Okay, now wait a minute. What happened, man? I thought you were ready to move on. April could also find a job in the Tampa area. Yeah, but I mean, we want to eventually move somewhere colder and and see. So, any tips for a system admin becoming a dev? Yeah, apply in house and apply out house at the same time. I've been meaning to make like a free TypeScript course on Udemy and Skillshare for that matter. Would you ever host your own hackathon that would allow your fans to code up something for your brand? Uh, my brand. What- I just feel like that almost feels like I'm just trying to con you guys in free work for the brand, Dylan brand. Um, um, I mean, it's not that I'm not open to it. It's just I have to feel like I'm giving you value also, and I have to have the time to do it. So, do you feel that as a society we are really competitive? I have my qualifications, someone has theirs, and we have to fight for a job and stand out more. Um, I mean, you phrase it like that, that sounds competitive. I can tell you, I don't think the dev market's very competitive. The majority of developers don't take pride in their craft or work to get better. They memorize and they don't learn. Um, so Anyone have tips for learning JavaScript quickly? Practice every day. That's the best thing you do. Uh, honestly, I didn't even realize I was wearing this shirt till I already started the live stream. But but usually I try not to talk about questions on my work, not because there's anything bad going on or anything that's super outlandish, but most companies don't want you to talk about them online. All right. What amount of coding time seems to be good for you so you stay consistent but don't burn out? It really just sort of depends on where you're at in your career, Drew. I would say when you're learning, I think 3 hours a day is a good place to aim every single day. When you have a job, you can drop it down to an hour to 2 hours. Um, but if you're able to put 14 hours a day, 14 hours a week after post job into your learning, that's 2 hours a day on average, and you'll progress very rapidly. Am I Jewish? My family is Jewish, I suppose. Uh, More of ethnically than religiously. There, yeah. Um, Glad to call fly stream me too, man. How do you go about remembering everything? I don't. Um, so the way that I learn is by reference, and I learn principles and ideas. So instead of learning the multiple for loops, and granted, some of this is like muscle memory. Um, um, I learn concepts. I understand how things connect. So a lot of you guys go about this the wrong way. A lot of you guys try and memorize things, and that's the problem with about 90% of devs is they try to memorize things. And there's so much to memorize, right? If you had to memorize every array method that ever existed and every string method and memorize this and memorize that. But instead of memorizing those things, if you just understood that those were things and they were like bullet points and that you could go and look them up later, but you knew they existed, or that you could understand concepts instead of having to memorize that. Like instead of going and memorizing that this is how you set up a for loop, I bet if I asked most of you to explain what the sort of three main parts of a standard for loop is, you probably couldn't do it. And you definitely couldn't do it confidently. And that's part of the issue. If I was to ask you to accurately describe different data types and how they differ, it would be a struggle. And so, because most people just memorize things, they don't understand the concepts. So, you understand the concepts, there's much less to maintain because instead of you having to memorize, it's like this is how what I compare it to. So, none of us have gone and read a dictionary front to back. I don't think most of us, I should say. Now, instead of you having to go and memorize every single word in that dictionary and how to say every single word, what you instead can do is simply sound it out. You learn the fundamentals, you learn the phonics, right? Um, but so stop trying to memorize things, learn by reference. And the things that you do need to memorize, will happen naturally because you're going to be using it every day. How do I avoid not using too much markup? Well, you'd be surprised just the you'd be surprised how many people don't understand the difference between a block level element and an inline element, and how to just use some CSS to get you what you need. Can free code camp really get you from 0 to full stack? Well, I technically do front end, although I guess technically I am full stack, although I've been focusing so much on the front end. But the short answer is free code camp should just be one of many resources, but will it allow you to get better? Yes. Does ageism exist within the web dev and software realm? Yeah. In every industry, it exists. I've had younger devs who have had more experience than me, but maybe haven't gotten roles because they're younger and because the older team members were a little bit worried about it. I've known older devs that feel like they got harder questions in interviews because they were older than the team members. Now, is it as prominent as you probably think it is? I don't think so. But here's another example. A lot of people always point to these Silicon Valley companies. I got a call today offering me $200,000 to go down to Silicon Valley in San Francisco. I said no. I told them it wasn't enough. But for one, as somebody who has a family, I have a girlfriend, I have 3 cats, 2 dogs. I can't buy a house in Silicon Valley. Two, just number wise, it doesn't make sense unless you're single and you can grind. And so single people who can grind in that area, of course, they're going to be younger, right? They have less responsibility. What happens if you have a degree but no experience in regards to web dev? You'll be fine, man. These are things you don't worry about. Just get good enough that no one cares. Since you're without a degree, why you gotta bring that up, man? No. All right, I'm 31 years old, only a degree, and I'm not web dev experience. Who cares? I got my first. I'm 31 years old, also, by the way. I'll make around 130 from my job this year, and when I was 27 years old, I was making $12,000 a year. Which is just 4 years younger than you, and I had no degree, and I still have no degree. So stop focusing on things that don't matter. Just get good. Get good, get better. Get good, get great, then get better. Okay, so without a degree, how do you go about getting more professional experience when you first started? Well, a couple different things. So my very first year, every year I come up with a plan of how I'm going to become a better developer. My very first year, what I did was for the first 3 to 6 months, I just made sure I kept my job. Like, we made it. I moved all the way from California to Florida. I wanted to make sure I keep my job. After that, the very next thing that I did was I started learning new technologies that I needed to be more comfortable with. SaaS, Git, testing, these things that I just needed to be more comfortable with that I hadn't used. So I expanded out my skill set. And when I was apparent that my workplace was very stressful, and it was apparent that that I wasn't going to learn anything else, I moved on. And I moved on to, I've never ever taken a role where the skills I was going to learn at the next role I was fully qualified, and that's just not going to be how it is. Um, Now, some people will take roles that they're only 100% qualified for because they'll only apply to those. I've applied to roles that have asked for 10 years experience, and when I've had 3 or 2, and yeah, you make it to the final round. Um, I've applied to roles that have asked for full stack, and I've been doing primarily front end. So, how do you go and get more professional experience? Well, one way is by taking on other jobs, experience. You go and get experiences, and you work in those. Another thing is you just build something. That's the easiest thing to do in the world. You want to say that you understand how to create content? Go become a content creator. You want to say that you can work with MongoDB, Node Express, and Mongoose? Go build an API. Go build a public API that people are going to use. And you want to say that you understand how to use GraphQL? Go build something and show it to them. You know what, one of the number one things I do when I get asked technical questions in a video chat is I show them my code. I show them my code from a personal project. Say, hey, and the reason for it is, one, I'm very proud and excited about it, but two, this is no more theoretical. I am happy for me to walk you through my code, and we can look at it together, and we can talk about it, and we can have a one-on-one conversation or group conversation, whatever it is. And you can see what I'm actually doing. I'm not all talk and this and that. And you can see the test coverage. You can see how the models work. You see it gracefully failing, all that sort of stuff. In regards to creating a portfolio, how much would it cost to web host a portfolio site and maintain it, let's say in a month? Like $5. Yeah, I've been keeping all the AMAs on the channel nowadays. Oh man, where's my... Let's see if April will bring me a coffee. That's in US dollars, yeah. Oh, she's watching. Thank you, baby. I'm over here, I'm looking at the clock. It's like 27 more minutes. Oh my god, I might fall asleep. I spoke with a recruiter. She told me employers don't want to pay for junior devs. It's something I've told you quite before. No, Ben. I don't know too much about my heritage, to be honest with you. But yeah, so here's the thing: is most companies do not want to take the time to train junior devs. So I don't blame them either, to be honest. It sucks, but I don't blame them. So statistically speaking, a junior dev will work at I should say a dev period. Forget junior, 18 months. So let's say it takes a year to get you trained. By the way, you can do a lot more harm than good as a developer if you don't know what you're doing. It takes a year to get you trained, then 6 months later you leave. Of course they don't want to invest in that. They want people who can get up and running like that. They want people who can go, 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 and don't take a ton to get up and running. Because there's a time cost and investment cost. You think, oh well, they're only paying me 50,000, 60,000, but if they're paying me 130 and it's my job to keep you going, and now all of a sudden you've taken half my time as maybe a team lead is mentoring 2-3 junior devs, then what ends up happening is you just cost the company, those junior devs just cost the company twice what their salary is. So yeah, so the way that you get around that is by getting so good that you are simply a developer. You're simply a developer that doesn't have experience, that doesn't have resume experience, and that's what I tell you to do. You get good enough that you go and become a developer that is, you just don't have resume experience. That's it. And so there's a lot of ways that you have to sell that. You have to maybe get some certs. You have to build some projects. You have to stand out. But that's it. And that's how you sell yourself. So your developer doesn't have any projects yet. How much would one have to make in a year to live comfortably in California? Don't get me wrong, you live comfortably on 200K in San Francisco, but you're not going to buy a house that's cost, I think the average house is, a median house is 1.2 million. So it's just not worth it, especially with taxes and everything. And different parts of California differ. So I have worked at places that offer work visas. I don't know anything about it, if that's what you're asking. It's not something I've ever needed to do, but I've worked at organizations that have. No, you don't have to be a genius to be a developer. You just have to work hard and you have to put in the time. And you have to have a cat that loves you. Right, Tito? That's about it, though. Cat and work hard. And they say the more animals you have in your house, the better off you're going to be. Do I believe about subconscious biases in general? I don't know. I don't really think about it. I ask the same 20 to 30 questions that I ask in every interview. So here's how I try to make sure I do a fair interview. I have about 20 to 30 questions depending on how long the candidate takes. I then ask those questions and I keep a little sticky note on the screen, like on the thing. And so as I'm talking, there's about 10 different categories of questions I ask. I point it. I point your questions. There's certain questions. There's certain questions that if you get completely wrong, I'm just where unfortunately we're not moving forward. There's certain questions you just have to get right, um, and uh, there's also certain amount that you have to get right. And so I just do it off a point system. And there might be times where I'm like, the guy, this girl, that guy, she did below like roughly what I said, but I think she'll bring, or he'll bring value to the team in a different direction. So, um, hey Alex. But yeah, so that's how I do it. And then if you get about 80 to 90%, I move you forward. Um, Sometimes 70 if I think that you'd be a good fit for the team and that you provide value in a way that the team can't grow. It's like when you're looking to hire somebody and you're looking to bring someone on, um, if they can bring something unique to the team that the team doesn't already have, then they can make the team better. Because what should be happening is that you should be doing knowledge transfers. You should be everyone should be able to provide value and should learn from each other and stuff like that. So when do I think you should start applying for jobs? As soon as you'd like. See where you're at. Do you have to use Vim in interviews to assert dominance? God, I hope not. Would I box somebody for a new position? I don't know what position we're talking about. I'd have to get in shape first. Alex and I are doing a mentoring session tomorrow, if I remember correctly. I think it's on the calendar. I'm trying to get better with calendar invites. So I've been setting calendar invites because when we did a live stream on Wednesday, I missed a business call and they haven't got back to me. Who's that, Tito? Who's that? So, fun fact, I mentioned earlier that I streamed many years ago. Tito was just a little kitten the size of this, and he used to sleep in my lap while I would stream for hours. And so that's sort of his MO. Even now when I code, he jumps up here. It gets a little hot in here, so I have to give him the boot, or he claws when he falls. So, do you think it's okay for a manager not to like spending time to teach other employees to code like junior devs? Here's what you have to understand, and this is not just for junior devs. This is for for just the general like developer, professional, individual life person, is that you need to take an active approach in your career and in life. If you are waiting for somebody to go and train you to be better, you're going to be waiting a very long time. If you are waiting for your manager to take the time to take you from junior to mid and mid to senior, you are taking a route that A doesn't exist, or B is the long route. So you need to be assertive in your own way of getting better and growing. And the greatest resource you have around you are experienced developers who you can ask questions to. I've been giving you guys the blueprint every week in these 1 hour AMAs, telling you exactly what to do, where to go, what books to read, what's important, how to know what's important, how to get going. And you've started to notice that pretty much every live stream, we got one, or was it Caitlin? Sorry. I just remembered we don't have many women on this channel. Not to call you out about that, but we had yeah, it was Caitlin. See, I got it right. But we we had a young lady who's 3 weeks into her new job, probably took some direction. We had last week a truck driver turned dev, first job. We had a dishwasher turned dev that 4x his income. Baby, thank you, love. Oh, it's too hot. How long did they take? I think one was a year and a half and one was like 10 months. Would you recommend someone putting their college on their resume even without graduating? I did. Helped me land my first role. I was honest about it. I just put incomplete. It was a computer science program. I don't do it anymore. But if I was applying to jobs with no experience and I had a relevant degree, I probably would just market it as incomplete and that you were planning on going back, but you need to start working. Because some college, and even you'll notice when you start, I've had, what's funny is I've had recruiters tell me I should put it on my resume. So that's one of those items where also you might sneak in. I mean, I'm not saying it's not. I'm not saying it does happen where sometimes what happens is your resume sneaks in, and then they're like, by the time they talk to you, like you, actually interview you, and then they find out at the end, oh, he doesn't have a degree, she doesn't have a degree. They don't care because you've already killed it. Yeah, and always be prepared while you quit college. You know what? I get that question all the time. They're like, well, how come don't have a degree? I'd say, well, I was in school and I was going towards my senior year, and why'd you stop? Because I fucking hated it. I don't say that. I have actually said it once. It kind of slipped out, like it did a little there. But I was miserable. That's usually what I tell. I was miserable. I hated it, and I just couldn't do it anymore. Um, do you ever want to start your own software company? No, not like I have no interest in like building a software company. I probably just want to keep doing what I'm doing, where I build little side projects, let them make a little bit of money. Like the fun thing for me would be like I build 100 different side projects, and they all generate $100 a month, and like that's it. And they just all sort of generate an average of $100 a month each, and then I'm making 10 grand a month, and like I don't know. I like the idea of taking an idea from start to completion. And I also like the idea of having something that I'll be working on for a very long time, like the YouTube channel. But you can't take there's not many things you can do like YouTube where you're going to like how many things can you go and turn into a this is going on a 4.5 year or 4 year project. Um, there's just not enough time to do those things, but you can go and take 6 months to do a book, take 3 months to build a course. These are things take like in my current project, probably take 6 months to launch a web application. So just want to say you're inspiring, Dylan. Currently in a boot camp, your videos I play at night to calm me down from the information overload. Yeah, it happens, man. April will probably get upset for me for mentioning this, but there's been many times she has screamed at me and told me, and one of them's on camera somewhere, where she has screamed at me and like slammed her hand down on the table and telling me that she's upset that I don't believe her that she put the code in the in the text editor right, and that it only worked for me when I changed it. To, it's I get it. It's frustrating. It's tiring, and it's that information overload. It's that stress. It's something new, right? It's I don't let it bother me because I remember very clearly what it's like to learn code and what it's like to get stuck and struggle, and I can relate. And so, Emmanuel, I imagine you're going through a lot of the same stuff. What was your SAT in high school? I have no idea. I imagine it was pretty high though, because I'm a boy genius. I don't know who that is. I don't know who George is. Georgie boy. If I do 8 hours a day, how long do you think it'll take to get that first job? It depends on what your goal is. If you just want to get like HTML, CSS internship, you might get one in 3 months to get going, and then continue to learn outside there. Get some JavaScript in there, and move forward. So, Lawrence, I think you misunderstand the point of peer codes, or is everyone self-sufficient? So, code reviews are not necessarily like, hey, you can't do your job. Um, um, they're more so, let's see if we can figure out a better way of doing things, some better principles. Did you know, not everybody's perfect, and most people aren't, myself included. Code reviews should be taken as a learning experience as well as a education experience. I personally am very fond of code reviews and peer reviews, and I use them as a education platform to say, hey, what do you think about rewriting this? It's cleaner. Oh, do you know that you could take this out and still do the same thing? Um, and some people are open to it, and other people don't like to be critiqued. They take it very personally, and that's the wrong attitude to take. But um, every place I've worked at really has an emphasis on that. Um, I will say that I think I will say that I think I am the exception to the norm. I think the majority of people don't like their code critiqued, and it's a hard thing to get into, and it's hard to convince people about the value of them. Um, but Once you start hitting people's stats, like 1 hour code reviews save something like 33 hours or 31 hours of debugging. So, what are your thoughts on cryptocurrency? That's about it. It goes up, it goes down, goes up. What are the requirements for internships that are more focused on algorithms or finish? I don't know what you're trying to say right there, Emmanuel. What Ivy League university did you attend? Self-taught or not.com, baby. That's what. that's what that's what streets from the streets, son. Yeah, I have heard stuff like that. So if we were to, I don't think I can show you my resume, but generally speaking, you want to have consistency. Um, I typically only I have removed all the I's from my application. You want them to be more like bullet points. I do have one in my hook statement because I think I do have an I, a couple in here, but yeah, you want to be like more bullet points. So here's an example. If I was to go off my work experience, um, I first off you want to use everything um, in the same tense, typically present tense. Um, Training and mentoring software engineers at various levels would be a bullet point. Um, so if you're to use I there, I trained and mentored software engineer at various levels. Part of the reason you also want to do that is you want to read more like their own bullet points that they put on the resume so that they can see that you have the requirements and skills. Can I show you some of my personal projects I've been working on? If you tune in, maybe tonight, maybe tomorrow, you'll see some of the API. Are internships more focused on testing with algorithms or portfolio and projects? It completely depends on the company. Where am I located? In the Tampa area. 100% depends on the company. I will say this: one sort of interesting thing, and it still depends by company, but one thing that's happened with me is as I don't really get tested as much in the same fashion. Um, I don't get asked questions about JavaScript. I don't get asked questions. I mean, I sort of do, but more so when I interview, they're very high level things. Do you understand solid principles? How would you architect this project out? How would you gracefully gracefully fail an API? Um, Stuff like that. Do I have any friends who are not white or European? Yeah, I have. I would say a good, probably about half my friends. Um, I have a friend who is American, but he is Chinese, currently in the Philippines. Engineer Truth. I have a African American friend who is originally from Cambodia, if I remember correctly. Um, Actually, got him the job where we work. How do people react who are hiring you when you tell them you're a self-taught programmer? Um, well, I I mean, I don't I don't know. I would say that they are okay with it. I don't know if it's impressed. They're impressed by it, but they're okay with it. Um, all right. Yeah. My sentiments as well. Um, yeah. I mean, something like 90% of devs consider themselves taught. But, you know, some of us actually are. I don't know how else to put it. Yeah. King Ferno says, this was my first week as a junior front-end dev. Was pretty stressful. They threw me into a project that needed to be complete by Monday. Yeah, man. You're probably just working at those small companies. It gets, here's the thing. This is the crazy thing about success and working hard and growing is your stress is highest when you're a junior dev because you're typically working at the shittier companies. Um, so um, as you get going and get that experience, you have to take those roles at worse companies that just really wish they didn't have to have developers. I've worked at a lot of companies that it has felt at times like they resent the fact that they need developers for their business. And it's an unfortunate thing where you're sitting there, you're doing a good job, and on a daily basis, and mind you, I make 2 times what I made as a junior developer, um, and much better benefits, all that sort of stuff, remote, the whole shebang. But I remember my very first junior dev job, which I moved all the way across from country, having vice presidents say jokingly, but there's always some grain of truth when it gets said again and again about how expensive we are and we're not worth it. Ha ha ha. And I've had similar things happen in other companies. Um, and I've had many friends who have worked at these things. And I've talked in the past about Joshua Fluke and how I think part of how I think part of his saltiness towards corporations. And don't get me wrong, it's not everything to work for a company, but there are some benefits. Is because he worked at startups, which are notoriously volatile and will cut you left and right. They're part of those shitty companies that you have to work for when you get going. That your goal should go to be and work for something, unless you're very passionate about those. Unless you're very passionate about the subject matter and you get a very large portion of profit sharing and of equity, then there's no reason for you to do any of that. Um, have you ever used Twilio? I don't think so. I've seen this a couple different places. I keep seeing this pop up and I keep on wondering what it is. Let me go finally look it up right now. It's a cloud communications platform. Hmm. All right. I'm not interested in that. I don't need that in my life. I've also had you only push a few buttons. The computer does the actual work, so help us in the shop. Yeah, and so one thing again, the book I would highly recommend most of you read, and I've did a little bit of mentoring with a colleague and friend of mine about this who started a new job fairly recently, and he was just like, they just say things. They're non-technical. Say this is how long this should take. I've had that happen. Everyone's had. Oh, I only expect to take 3 days. What are you basing that off of? And so you have to push that back. Not aggressively, but honestly, of like you say this task should take 3 days. What are you basing that? Well, I just don't think it's that hard. Well, what are you basing it off? And you have to explain that this is what it actually entails, and it's an education process. A lot of times, you know, people who think that all you do is press a few keys on the keyboard don't understand what that even includes. If he doesn't even know how to code, how long can he take? How can he know how long it takes? Because that's how it's a. So this is the thing you have to understand about working for somebody else it is not a democracy. And that's why you have to be careful what you say online and how you represent your company and how you are as an individual. You have to be professional. Um, so companies are not democracies. So if somebody says this is how much, but you have to be professional and correct them and give a better estimate with some confidence and um, as to yeah, it could take 3 days, 10% of the time. So it's just one of those things where they don't need you to tell them that they're unqualified, but sometimes you have to push back and say, "Look, man, this is what I got." How many interviews did you do before you felt confident and in control? You mean as an interviewee or an interviewer? As an interviewee. A book recommendation, yes. I was gonna say The Clean Coder. There's a link in the description. You can help me with like a 3% affiliate cut. One of the best books that you could read. There's two books I recommend everybody in their career read, no matter where you're at in your. And this will help with your stress levels. This will help with your code. So The Clean Coder. This will allow. This will. It's called the subtitles for it is a code of conduct for professional programs. This will tell you how to be a programmer from the business sense. This is going to lower your stress level. It's going to make you more productive, and you're going to have a better working environment with your team. Highly recommend this. Clean Code. Highly recommend this to learn to level up your game. Clean Code has been one of the things that has allowed me to go from 62,000 to about 130,000 in about 2 years doing that. Just learning Clean Code and understanding what that entails. So, anyhow, um, how many interviews did I do before I felt confident and in control? Well, it's not really an interview thing. It's not like a number thing. It's more of a thing where how can I put it? Eventually you realize where you stand compared to the average developer, and most of the time I don't interview against the average developer anymore. Um, I always, in terms of money, am above market rate. Um, and so you usually are only dealing with above market rate people. And as I've gained more years of experience, the questions have transitioned. So, you know, for junior level and mid level roles, you'll get a lot of questions like, what does async await do? What are the HTTP verbs and how do they differ? Or methods, whatever you want to call them. How might you hand native responsive design? Things like that. Things that are like fundamental questions about the role that you should know. As a senior level developer, for the roles that I'm interviewing for that can pay my rate, because most companies around here want to anywhere. Well, so where you're at in your career and the quality of company will highly depend on where your pay is. So typically, companies that want to pay you less or pay you below market rate are going to be the ones that are going to work you to the bone. And the ones who pay you more are going to be the ones that understand that you have a life because they have a big, strong business model and they don't want it. They understand the value of keeping you. Um, but as you progress in your career, the questions slightly transition from these very base level questions. Like I have 900 videos up on my YouTube channel. I have several courses on Udemy. I have several courses on Scrimba, some on Skillshare. I'm probably going to have some courses on LinkedIn Learning in January, February ish. Um, I got a podcast coming out on these topics and things like that. So, like, if you're asking me double equals versus triple equals, what are you going to learn? Like, of course, I'm going to be able to answer that for you. Um, so now I get higher level questions. I get define the solid principles to me. How do you test your code? Do you understand unit testing? What is clean code? Um, Talk to me about asynchronous code. Um, why might we want to implement over extend in object-oriented programming? How might you mentor other devs? How might you teach? How might you manage other devs? How might you mentor other devs? These sort of high level things. What is your experience with mentoring other devs? I get a lot of this lately. Um, how do you teach other devs? How do you grow other devs who don't quite yet understand? How do you implement code quality changes and stuff like that? Those are the types of questions I start getting because those are things I value and what I look for in roles. Um, so in terms of, I think the original question was how many interviews did you do before feeling confident and in control? It wasn't an amount of interviews. It was the number one thing that drives me nuts when I interview people is when people say I think and then you can clear it's not like they say I think, but they say I think and then they watch for your reaction to see if they're right. I just went out of my way to make sure I knew what the hell I was talking about. And so if you're unclear about something, don't be unclear about it. If you're unclear about async await, go learn it. If you're unclear about promises, go learn it. You're unclear about um, these fundamental questions, go learn it. So in terms of going and saying, hey, I'm unclear about some of these fundamental questions, you shouldn't be. So go learn it and then eliminate that doubt. That's what I did, and that was probably what made me confident and in control. Although it's very strange for me, so I'm in control. Show up. I'm in control. I've run this interview. You're just spectating. No, I wouldn't say I'm in control, but I don't feel nervous like I did and stuff like that. Everything about working for Fang? Yeah, at one time I wanted to work for Microsoft and Google, and Amazon's sort of a nice backup, and Facebook's a nice backup, but really the Google and Microsoft are the companies that I really like software companies. That's the company I want to work at with in those categories. In that sort of, when you think of Fang, Microsoft sort of falls in there. Real quick, are all these fundamentals you talked about in the 100 front end technical interview questions challenge something that I think you should know? Yeah, we've had several people. This course has been out for 3-4 weeks. I think it's been out for a month actually. We've had several people come into this chat in this month who have taken the course and said, Dylan, I killed the interview. Thank you for this course. Best $10 I ever spent. I went and got it. I went from $25,000 as a bartender to 60. This was last night. I went from $25,000 as a bartender to $60,000 as a dev. I was working a year and a half, and so at it. But magically, he takes a course that makes sure that he understands the core fundamentals of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, and specifically the ones that you're going to be asked. And all of a sudden, he gets a job. It's the craziest thing. It's almost like I'm really trying to help you guys. And you can get that course for $9.99 in the description below. Just 10 cents. Just 10 cents a topic. But yeah. Um, and I do make some money from it, without a doubt. But I do want to help also. So Barry Black, you understand breadcrumbs now? Use coupon code Code and God. Link in the description. It's hot and new. Scott. Do you think starting out with HTML and CSS is better than trying to learn Python? It just sort of depends what it is your goal is. But I would say that's probably a more standard path to get people introduced to. I almost feel like it's to get you introduced to technology and the web. Just understand. It's like giving you an understanding of what the point of that stuff is. If I just apply to jobs, even if I think I'm not ready, do you think that is the best way to find out if I'm job ready? I am. Yeah. It also show you what sort of questions you're going to be asked when you interview. So one of the best things you can do is go bomb an interview. I mean, it's not good to bomb an interview, but go to an interview and bomb it unintentionally, and then say, "Oh my goodness, that was one of the worst experiences of my life." I speak from personal experience. You say, "Oh my goodness, that was one of the worst experiences of my life. I don't ever want to do that again." And even though I was panicked, I remembered 5 of the 10 things they asked me, and I said, "I didn't know anything they were talking about of those 5," and you go home and you learn them. You start talking with recruiters and you get some feedback. And a lot of recruiters won't give you feedback, but some do. Whenever I give an interview, I when I give my recommendation for or against, when I see other people, I give a pros category and I give a cons category. My hope is that that goes to the developer. Um, some developers, they don't want to hear it. They're like, Dylan just didn't like me. That's it. He's an elitist or something. He's a code elitist. I've had people call me that, unfortunately, um, where like all I want to do is make people better and myself better and help other people. King Ferno says exactly what I did. I bombed my first interview and was embarrassed badly. Aced my second interview and landed a job. Yeah. Now it took me about bombing about 5 interviews. Do you use server side rendering with Angular? Yeah, my side project, Video Dev Docs, is rendered with Angular Universal. So have I had some salty interviewees after the interview? No, I've never had anyone that has reached out to me after the fact. Because I mean, it's not like I'm telling them, unfortunately not, best of luck or anything like that. Um, but I do send notes, and the recruiters deal with all that sort of stuff. But no one's like reached out to me after the fact. Um, they can occasionally. I'll get candidates that will reach out to me directly, um, and that they know they're interviewing with me and check me out. So a lot of times recruiters will tell you who you're interviewing with. Part of that is so that you can do a little bit of research on them, see what they're up to, maybe connect a little bit because they want you to get a job too. That makes their life easier, makes the team easier. Everybody, nobody does it. Here's the thing, nobody. This is the thing I always try to get across that people don't fully understand is that nobody wants you not to get that job. The company wants you to get that job. The recruiter wants you to get that job. You want to get that job. The developer wants you to get that job. Everybody wants you to get the job. Let me say it one more time. The company, the recruiter, the developer, and you, assuming that you like the job. Everybody wants you to get that job. The reason is because they're interviewing people. That takes time, resources, and money, and they need you. The developer is probably working more. The recruiter, that's their whole job. You probably need a better job or need a job. The company needs to get you in there to go and do something. Everybody wants you to get the job. So this idea that like your interviewer doesn't want you to get the job, like, no, man. I don't know any dev that would rather prefer recruiters want to get a job because that's how they get their commission. Not all recruiters work off commission, and in fact, most in-house recruiters don't. Um, but but you gotta be able to do the job, right? That's why there's multiple rounds of interviews. Um, I passed one candidate through, and since I've been interviewing for my current company, and my boss and his boss interviewed him, didn't like him. Okay, cool. He didn't meet the cut for their standards, but he met for mine, right? And so we got to find that person that meets what's important, and that goes for different knowledge base and whatnot. So, um, yeah. When you first started looking for jobs, were you willing to relocate? Yes. Although when I first started looking, I was applying in Los Angeles and Southern California, and I saw that I was going against several hundred applicants, and I couldn't get any calls back. And then I was like, I noticed that I was going against like 8 when I applied to Tampa, Florida, and like areas outside, and I started getting call backs immediately, and then I got a job about 4 weeks later. Server side rendering, do I need to know this as a junior? No. All that really means is that, so server side rendering, so typically your single page application, your SPA, your front end of your application loads in the browser. And what that means is that it's loading on the client's machine. Now, when something's server side rendered, they don't have, what that means is that it loads on the server and then serves it to you, to the front end. And so theoretically, you could not have JavaScript enabled and still have a working single page application. But there's some downsides to that, and there's some plus sides and some headaches that come with it. So like one thing that's a plus for server side rendering is SEO for search engines. Another thing that's sort of a con to that is there's no document model. There's no local storage. There's no any of that, and so no window because it's on a server. It's not in the browser. That is the browser API. That's the DOM. So yeah. But yeah, don't ever feel strange about interviewing. Interviewing early is great because it'll motivate you. It'll show you where you're at and see where you're at. So there are drawbacks. Drawbacks to everything. Yeah, it adds complexity to your application. It forces. So part of the benefit of running an app on the client side is that it runs that on your machine. It doesn't run it on the server. And so when you have something server side rendered, you're then doing computing power on the server, which then costs the companies more money. Theoretically, you can also load it slightly faster if it's on a server because it's on a server and not your phone and not on your, you get what I'm saying, not on your 1995, your Windows 95 machine, right? And part of the drawbacks of single page applications is they're bad for SEO because when Google does its like crawl, it doesn't see how the page is actually rendered and what's there. You went to Thinkster and couldn't find your course. They sent an email out. You gotta sign up, man. But yeah, to get the 100 free, you got to or the 10 free. Do it through the email, but I don't think it's on their site. I don't think it's one of those courses. It's sort of you gotta go pro to get the 100. You know what I'm saying? Gotta go pro. Okay. All right, guys, we've been going for a little bit. It's been fun. I'm going to relax for a little bit. I'm gonna drink this coffee, and if I feel up to it, I might work on my API a little bit for my project. Dive into that and take care of some business stuff, some emails I need to take care of. But as always, guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you found some value. I hope you learned something. I hope you got some direction, and I hope you check out my latest course, the 100 front end interview technical questions to help you ace those front end technical interviews, which you can get for just $9.99 in the description below, as well as those books that we recommended down below. So see you guys next time.